Hey everyone, this is Shreyas and welcome back to another video. So recently I just posted my full review for the Pixel 6 Pro. It was a long-term review, I used it over a month, but I've been using this phone even more to take a lot of pictures, and I promised in my full review that I'll be bringing a detailed video about all the camera features and everything you need to know about the Pixel 6 Pro and its cameras. And if you haven't watched the full review yet, you can watch it in the card over here. With that said, the Pixel 6 Pro is a very compelling camera setup, especially for the price it is offered in. And the Pixel 6 Pro just does few things really well which no other phone can, and does other things in a very mediocre way. And it has a few talking points about what are the weaknesses of this camera and what will make you consider this as your smartphone choice if camera is your highest priority. So with that said, this is Shreyas and let's check that out. So I'm going to break this down into multiple sections. Now obviously there'll be a lot of camera samples to come, and I'll explain what I observed in those camera samples as well and what I personally enjoyed. But apart from that, I think the UI and the camera itself is very important. So now with the Pixel 6 series, you get an exclusive feature which was not there before, and I don't see it in my Pixel 4a yet, which is if you tap to focus or expose, you get 3 sliders now. Previously you had an exposure slider and a slider for the shadows, but now you get another slider for adjusting the white balance. Now it might not be always apparent, so you might have to go down into the settings, and there under manual controls you will see white balance and exposure. Turn those two toggles on and you will see it in your viewfinder. It could help you with a few shots where you're trying to put in some mood or trying to grade it later on. So getting a live preview of it definitely helps. Apart from that, there's another thing, especially it's a video feature. So when you go into the settings, you have something called as audio zoom. And the other thing is that we have an astrophotography mode over here, which is amazing. But a few months back, the feature drop actually introduced time lapse for astrophotography. So for that, you need to go into the settings, go into advanced, and you will see over here enable time lapse for astrophotography. And for all the people who love shooting raw and doing a lot of stuff and editing their photos after it has been taken, you have a toggle to turn on RAW and JPEG control, and once you have that on, when you're in your camera viewfinder, you can just slide down and you can see a JPEG only or RAW option in your camera viewfinder, so you know when to turn it on for those special photos you want to edit later. Now a few things which are software enabled and could help you if you're using or trying to purchase this are social media apps. Now especially Instagram and Snapchat, they have access to the actual camera hardware of this particular phone. If you click a lot of things from the Instagram app itself, even videos as well, then this could be really useful for you to know. And not just that, on Snapchat you get a bonus which is night sight. You can enable night sight on Snapchat and take your low light photos. So right from the Snapchat viewfinder, no need of going into your camera roll and then uploading a photo over there. So these are some social media perks to the Pixel 6 Pro camera setup. Now all that put aside, let's get into the samples real quick. Let's start with regular lighting, good day lighting. Over here you can see this is a shot from the ultra wide, and the field of view of the ultra wide is not as wide as some other cameras. You can see this is the regular shot. So the only good point about the ultra wide is that it does not get much distortion. So that's the only good part, but the field of view is not that great. And also the ultra wide, I feel the megapixel count is not as much and the aperture is low, because of which even in good lighting condition, you do see some noise at some times. And especially in nighttime photos as well, in the shadows, you might find some noise which you typically don't if you click the same photo with the main sensors. But overall, the perspective is good, but yes, obviously I would wish that it was a bit wider. Moving on to the main lens, it has really good dynamic range and the details are really sharp as well. Representation of colors etc. is completely pixel-like. It looks really amazing, to be very honest. I have no complaints there. And the good part is the sensor being huge, you get a shallow depth of field, so it gives a very natural bokeh when you're taking close-up shots. And the dynamic range is obviously A1. USP of this camera, according to me, is the 4x telephoto lens. Now I had the most fun clicking with this camera. You get really unique perspectives. It's way better in quality as well. The sharpness is good on this. The field of view which you get especially is really good. I love the perspective, and night sight with this really works great. There is not a lot of noise, and another thing is that the lens flare on this, kind of because of it being a periscope sensor and the entrance of the lens being squarish, you get a very unique lens flare, and sometimes it kind of looks like an anamorphic lens when there are harsh light sources in the frame, but otherwise you can zoom in even more up to 20x and you get very decent photos, to be honest. And I really enjoyed using this particular telephoto lens, and this is my favorite lens in the whole setup in my personal opinion. Next is the selfie camera. The front camera is actually wider, and this is where the difference comes in with the Pixel 6. The Pixel 6 Pro, one has a wider camera and second has a few features enabled, and you get 3 modes for skin representation as well. You can see over here with off, subtle and smooth. I think all 3 are pretty good. Nothing is too aggressive, and that's the good part of it. And the skin tone representation is really great, especially coming from OnePlus phones. I enjoyed clicking pictures of people. And another special shout out to the Pixel 6 Pro being my favorite camera to click some neon lights with, and even some special light arrangements. I really enjoyed it. The color is excellent. There is no unnecessary lens flare, and the highlight control is so amazing that I enjoyed taking colorful pictures even in the dark. So shout out to the Pixel 6 Pro being my favorite camera for taking pictures of neon lights. Now you have taken a lot of photos and videos. In the active mode, as I mentioned, there is 1080p cap over there, and even in the slow motion video modes, it is capped to 1080p unfortunately. And this phone as of now does not have 8K recording, which I hardly think people might be using. Now apart from that, the UI is fairly easy and not at all complicated. But one more thing, under video modes there is a small icon on the right where you can set a stabilization mode. Now you have 4 modes over here. One is the standard stabilization, which is your standard OIS plus EIS, whatever frame rate you're shooting in will decide that kind of. The other one is locked, which is a 2x zoom, and it tries to lock into a single subject no matter what you record, but it does it from the main sensor and crops it in. The other one is active. Now this is capped at 1080p, and I'll show you video samples of it later down the video. It does a very good job in terms of stabilization. You will see it in the video sample itself. The next one is cinematic pan. This is where the video is recorded at a higher frame rate and then slowed down to give you a very nice and soothing panning effect. Okay, so this is the stabilization from the wide angle lens. I'm walking around quite quickly, and this is the ultra wide. So yeah, stabilization looks pretty decent, and so is the dynamic range. Let me go to some harsh sunlight over here. Okay, the sun's right there, and yeah, HDR on my display looks pretty decent. If I crop in 2x, it remains very stable although I'm walking around, as you saw the pipe go by. Not just that, if I switch to the telephoto, it just switched right now. First it crops in and then it switches. It's trying to stay very stable although I'm trying to walk, so that's good to see. It tries to identify a subject and stays locked to it. Like I'm walking right now and it's almost locked onto the subject in the frame. This is kind of the active mode, which could be the super stable mode. So I'm just gonna literally run and let's see how stable it is. Hope I don't trip. Yeah, I just jumped. Alright, so this is the front camera. It's pretty windy, my hair is messed up. I'm recording in 4K. You can see it's pretty wide. When I stretch out my arms, I'm filling in a lot in the frame. And it has a speech enhancement mode. Let me know about the stabilization. Let me just put in a challenging situation over here with the sun right behind me. Let me know about the HDR and how it looks. So over here I actually took some slow-mo videos. You can see I actually tried raising the exposure slowly after turning it down manually in the slow-mo, because there were a lot of strobing lights and lights all around trying to expose the actual scene. And here is a slow motion of the waves crashing in beautiful Goa. This was at Caravella Beach. Now in the camera UI, you have a different tab called as motion. Now this has two modes, action pan and long exposure. Over here you can see how the action pan actually represents each photo. I think this is a really good mode. I had fun clicking with it honestly. And long exposure, although I did not get the best subjects to use it, you can see how it really works, and it works really great according to me. Long exposure can be fun and in some scenarios can be really important and useful as well. Few more advantages you get for having a Pixel is the Photos app. Now Photos app enables you with some features as well. Now next here are some things that you can do even after taking a picture on your Pixel, that is portrait light. Now this is something that I really love. I am turning up the dial over here at 100% so that it's more apparent about the changes that are happening in the scene, and you can do it even on old photos. It does not have to be clicked on a Pixel as well, and that's the brilliant thing. And apart from that, you have another blur tool as well. The next thing is magic eraser, and yeah, just like Thanos' snap, you can just make people disappear from the background of the pictures. It depends from context to context. Some backgrounds are very complicated, so they might not produce really good results because it's basically content aware fill. Now this is a bonus part. I don't think everybody requires it, but I would really like to recommend this. Trying to expose for the brightest light in the scene, because otherwise it becomes really bright. And you can see some examples over here where I took just a point and shoot picture versus when I exposed it manually. A lot of people might not like my results because I did it when I see very harsh shadows. I try to represent it that way in my pictures click, and when I don't, I do so otherwise. But otherwise the Pixel 6 Pro just overexposes the bright parts and trying to expose the shadows in the scene. So that's something you can be mindful about. And even if not, you can just tap to expose on the brightest spot of your viewfinder, and that will make a whole lot of difference to your pictures, trust me, because Google's processing is really good and sometimes it's too much for its own good. So that's something you should keep in mind. And if you like this particular video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you're tuned in. I'll try to make a video about the special features of the Pixel 6 Pro. That's been pending from my end, but I'm also trying to review this particular LG C10, which I got as a monitor cum content consumption screen for my house. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you have anything to ask about the Pixel 6 Pro camera. And for my upcoming videos, stay subscribed. And thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.